So back in 2022, just like pretty much every young adult at one point in their lives, I was lost. I didn't know what to do with my life, and seeing the people around me and my friends advance in their careers or studies, I felt like I was falling behind. I felt left out. So that was when I decided, you know what? I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm tired of sitting here and not getting anywhere in life. I did some research, packed my bags, and decided to move to Australia for almost a year. Even though I may not have advanced in my career or education as much as any of the people or friends back at home, I did something that none of them have. I gained this once-in-a-lifetime experience of backpacking and traveling, and I learned so many things about myself, Australia, and life as a whole. Of course, I made many mistakes along the way and learned from it. Some I've seen others make and cost them their whole experience and trip, which forced them to cut their trip short and fly back home. I managed to stay and continue my journey in Australia, but some didn't. So, in this video, I want to share with you 5 tips that may help you with your backpacking travels around Australia. And hopefully, by the end of this video, you will be able to avoid the mistakes I myself, as well as the people around me made on your trip to Australia. So, point 1. Have more than the $5,000 requirement for your visa. If I remember correctly, when you're applying for your working holiday visa, it states that it is a requirement for you to have at least $5,000 in your bank to be eligible for the visa or to enter Australia with your working holiday visa. At first, when I saw that requirement, I thought it was crazy. It's so much money, and that's kind of ridiculous. Because after booking the accommodation and the flights, that's already gonna cost you $1,000 or $2,000, basically a lot of money. But after I got to Australia, I soon realized why they made that a requirement. If you've never been to Australia, you'll soon come to realize how expensive it is. Not only are the accommodations expensive, so are the foods and transportation, and pretty much everything else. And if you're like me, in my mind, I thought I would be able to find a job pretty much right after I arrived in Australia. Boy, was I wrong. It took me slightly over 2 weeks to actually find a job, and that's with me like constantly searching for jobs online, applying for jobs online, sending my applications everywhere or my resume everywhere. Only a few got back to me, let alone called me in for an interview. So, finding a job can actually be really challenging, which I will probably be making another video on that. But then again, not everyone experiences the same things. I have met a lot of people that were pretty much in my situation as well, where they took quite a while to actually find a job. But I have also met some people that found a job within a day or two of arriving in Australia, which good for them, but I was just not one of them. So I guess it kind of depends on your luck as well. But if you're like the majority, like myself, where you might take some time to find a job, you're going to be spending some money in the meantime without any form of income. And that's when you start to realize why they made the $5,000 a requirement. In fact, I would actually recommend to have more than $5,000 if possible. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. Just think about it. Let's do some math real quick. Quick math. Assuming you booked your hostel for a month like I did, that would cost you roughly 1,200 Australian dollars, depending on the seasons as well, whether it's peak or not, and what kind of rooms you're looking at, be it like 4 people, 8 people bedroom or whatnot. Next, food. Assuming you're like me and you took like 2 weeks to find a job, I was extremely frugal with how I spent my money in terms of food. I would get like microwavable food every single day, or I might even cut down my meals to like 1 a day. And even if I'm hungry, I'll probably get like plain bread with like peanut butter or something. But I get that not everyone is like me, where I don't mind living, I guess, like the beggar life or something. But let's say you do decide to eat out. We'll give you a budget of like $50 a day, which some might think that's a lot, but once you get to Australia, you actually realize how little that is, especially for eating out and if you're looking for meals for the whole day. But we'll just take it as $50 a day. So $50 a day for 2 weeks, that's $700 already. And once you do find a job, I don't know about other jobs, but at least for the jobs that I had in Australia, I got paid every 2 weeks. So on top of the time that you take to find a job, which is 2 weeks, you still need another 2 weeks before you get paid. So that's a whole month before you get your first paycheck. And that means another 2 weeks of paying for your foods without any form of income. So that 700, multiply that by 2 more weeks, because you're gonna take a while to get paid. So that'll be $1,400 just for food itself. And keep in mind, you probably need transportation as well. Depending on which city that you land in when you first arrive in Australia, the prices varies drastically in terms of transport. I started off in Melbourne, so let's just start with that. A simple trip on a tram can cost, if I remember correctly, $4 a trip. And they don't take into account how many stops you take. Even if it's 1 stop or like 10 stops, as soon as you tap that card, you're charged $4, or at least that's my experience. Unless I didn't do enough research or there's something that I don't know about that you shouldn't be getting charged that much. But this is based on my experience. So let's say you take the tram $4 a day. $4 a trip to go to the place and back, that's $8. And that's excluding if you need to take the trains, not the trams. So let's just take it as you spend like $100 a week on transportation. That's about $14, $15 a day. And 4 weeks of transportation, that's $400. Next, let's look at your next hostel stay. Your time at the hostel is almost up, and it's time for you to actually book your next month or however long you're looking at staying there. Assuming it's another month, we'll just take it as $1,200 again. Add that all up, that's gonna be $4,200. And that's excluding paying for miscellaneous stuff like clothing detergent, the laundromat, and everything. So hopefully you see my point. And even though you do still have some money to spare, I feel like that is such a dangerous game. At least to me, I would rather have more than to be struggling later if it takes me way longer to find a job. I'm just glad that I prepared more than $5,000 when I went to Australia. It saved me so much headache and worry, because I have met people that were struggling because they didn't have enough money and they haven't found a job yet. Some even had to go back home because the flight back home is actually cheaper than the next month's rent. And that's really sad, because you came all the way to Australia just for you to have to go back even before your somewhat journey of backpacking starts. So the first tip that I would say is the most important is to have way more funds, or to have more funds prepared just in case. Because after all, if you don't have enough, then you might have to end your trip like the people that I have met, or you might not be able to enjoy your time as much as you wanted to. I feel like if you've already made such a big step to move to Australia, and you've already saved so much money to even just meet the $5,000 requirement to go, might as well try your best to save a bit more, just to make sure that you are able to enjoy your trip there without having such a big worry weighing on your shoulders or back, instead of risking going all the way to Australia and ending up not having enough money to fund your trip, which might force you to have to cut your trip short, and all that you've prepared for just goes to waste. Moving on to point 2, step out of your comfort zone. Make friends. I get that you're already stepping way out of your comfort zone by deciding to leave home and fly all the way to Australia. And I will admit that that itself takes a huge amount of courage. But personally, I think it shouldn't just stop there. Assuming you're like me, once again. By the way, hi, I'm Belinda. If you're new to this channel, welcome to the channel. I post videos on my journey backpacking Australia, moving to Germany from Singapore, my life now in Germany, and videos just basically about my life. So, if you're interested, do subscribe and check out my other videos on my channel. But, like I was saying, if you're like me and you're a solo backpacker, you're rather introverted, and you're staying at a hostel, which I have a video on what you should know about hostels, which I'll link up right here or here, either one of them. And I will also link it down in the description box. So do check it out after this video. But upon arriving in Australia and at your hostel, it can get really overwhelming After all, you're in a new country, a new environment, and you're all alone, surrounded by a bunch of strangers. It's really easy to just shut everyone out and stay in your own little bubble where you're comfortable, which is basically what I did when I first arrived. But I would like to encourage you to say hi to someone. Believe me, it is overwhelming and scary. And I'm not telling you to go from an introverted individual to a full-blown extrovert within a day or less than a day. I'm just saying that take small steps each day. Set daily goals. I personally tried to say hi to someone new every single day. It doesn't have to be a full-blown conversation or even a small talk. Just say hi. If you don't want to have a small talk or a full-blown conversation, you can just say hi to someone. Let's say while you're walking to your room and you pass by someone along the hallway, just say hi. Or even easier, I would recommend saying hi to the receptionist of the hostel, because they are in a way supposed to be friendly, right? So just say hi to them when you walk past the reception, and just slowly build up that courage over time with just saying hi to someone every single day, and slowly progress from a passing hi to like a small talk, and soon enough even like a full-blown conversation. It might be scary to even think about it, but trust me, if I was able to do it, I'm sure you can too. Heck, I was so socially awkward that, especially coming from Singapore where small talk is not really part of our culture, everyone just minds their own business. We don't even say a passing hi. So when I first went to Australia and I entered a random store, the store employee just said like, "Hey, how's it going?" I panicked so hard because I've never experienced that before, where like someone actually talks to you in the store or the employees actually somewhat greet you. Let me tell you, I panicked so hard that my brain basically stopped functioning, and I knew I had to reply. Like I knew I had to come up with a reply, and of all the things that I could have said, I said thank you. I said thank you to someone that was asking, "How's it going?" I mean, I know that they're not actually asking you how you're doing. It's just a way of saying hi or a way of greeting. But still, saying thank you as a reply, I got so embarrassed. I just walked right out of the store and never looked back. And before I left, I could see from the corner of my eye that the guy was just like, "What the F?" So yeah, if I could do it, I'm sure you can do it too. I know it's scary, believe me, but just take one step at a time and just keep practicing it, and I'm sure you'll eventually get the hang of it. Next up, tip number 3, make a plan, be it moving states or traveling. I see so many people, myself included, making this mistake. They start off in one place or city and then they get comfortable and decide to stay a little longer, and before you know it, their visa is up or their visa is almost up. You might think like, how does that even happen? Like, you have a whole year. Well, a year goes by way quicker than you think, especially when you're trying to explore a new country. Like I said in the beginning, like you're in a new environment, you're all alone, and you're just surrounded by a bunch of strangers. When you actually meet some people and make some friends, all you want to do is just spend more time with them, especially when it's like you're finally starting to feel comfortable in Australia and you just want to spend more time with them. And before you know it, like I said, you're extending your stay in that city and your visa is almost up. And at the end of it, you just feel like you're rushing against time, trying to explore the rest of Australia before it's too late. So just to make sure that you actually have enough time to explore every part of Australia that you wanted to explore, I would say plan ahead of time. What are the places that you would actually like to explore and how long you would like to stay in each of the cities or the places. I'm not saying that you have to make a plan like set in stone where you have to follow that strictly. I'm just saying it's nice to have a somewhat rough idea or plan. For example, in the 12 months of your visa, you can stay like 3 months each in like Cairns, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, or even Tasmania. And within those 3 months in each of the locations, you can also use to explore the outskirts of it. Let's say Sydney with like Brisbane, the Great Barrier Reef, Byron Bay. You get what I mean. But remember to also take into account whether you'd like to do the regional work to unlock your second year of the visa, or if you're really sure that you're just gonna be using that 1 year and that's it. On top of that, remember to also take into account your finances, which leads me to my fourth point, planning a budget. I see so many people splurging their money on nights out, especially once they get their first paycheck. I mean, it's perfectly fine if you want to enjoy yourself and treat yourself to a good time, but you also have to learn to do it responsibly. I've met people that splurge so much on a nights out to the point where they don't even have money to pay for the next month's rent. And they either have no choice but to go back home, like what I mentioned in the first point, or the first few points, because the plane tickets back home are actually cheaper than if they were to continue staying in Australia. Or I've also met people that had to call back home to their parents to ask for money. So yeah, be it whether you're setting a budget to stay in the same city, move to another city, to go on tours, or even just have some fun money, it is so important for you to make sure that you do set aside money for that, or rather set aside enough money for that. If you made a plan on the places you want to visit or explore around Australia, you have to set aside a budget to actually be able to do it. It's kind of like the first point, where I highly encourage you to prepare more money than you think you need, just in case something doesn't go according to plan, or there just happens to be some unplanned expenses. And just taking 15 minutes to just plan out your budget for the month can save you so much headache, and I really highly encourage you to do it. On top of that, I do highly encourage you to track your expenses as well. I've recommended this to a number of people, and every single one of them always end up telling me like, wow, I had no idea I was spending so much money on this or that. Be it like so much money on coffee each day, like Starbucks, or just like cab money, like taxi. You might not notice how much money you're spending each day, like all the little expenses that you make, like coffee from a cafe. Like Australia is known for their coffee, right? If you were just spending money each day on coffee from a cafe or Starbucks, it can add up over time, especially in a month. Or how much money you're spending every weekend on dinners and drinks, and you're just always wondering why you don't seem to have enough money. If that's you, I would really recommend trying to track your expenses so you're really able to see where your money is going. Start off small, like maybe just track your expenses for one day, just like an average daily expense, and then move on to weekly or even a monthly one. You don't need some fancy app to actually track your expenses. You can just use the Notes app on your phone, like I did. So just whenever you spend some money, just pop out your Notes app and just type it in, like how much you spent and exactly what is it for. Another way is you can actually just collect all the receipts and just add them all together afterwards. Keeping track of your expenses can also help you make sure that you're actually sticking to your budget and not overspending. So yeah, highly recommend trying that out. And now moving on to point number 5, or tip number 5. Take more pictures and videos. Like I said earlier, a year in Australia goes by way quicker than you think. And before you know it, it's time for you to go back home. Especially with so much going on during your whole stay. Sure, you may remember some of it, but definitely not all of it. At least for me, I definitely didn't. I'm just glad I took quite a number of pictures and videos, because if not for them, I definitely would not have remembered some parts of it. I get that in a moment, you might think like, nah, it's too troublesome to like bring out my phone right now. It's too much of a hassle to take a picture or record this. But believe me, I'm sure you'll be glad that you did it. I'm not saying that you should take a picture or record every single thing you do. You should also learn to live in the moment. At least for me, when I visited the Grampians in Victoria, sure, I took a lot of videos and pictures, which I posted on my Instagram, which I will link down in the description box. So feel free to follow me over there. And also, I posted a video on my channel, which I'll link up over here or here and in the description box as well. But yeah, even with me taking so many pictures and videos of my little trip over there, I also made sure to consciously remind myself to live in the moment, or just take everything in and put my phone and my GoPro aside. I feel like when I consciously remind myself to live in the moment and take everything in, I remember those memories or experiences better. You just have to find the balance between taking pictures and videos for memory and also actually remembering to live in the moment. Once you find that, I'm sure you'll be able to enjoy both the experiences that you've gained from Australia and the memories that you made through pictures and videos that you can look back on. So, that's 5 tips on backpacking Australia on a working holiday visa. With all that said, I thought that I should put it out there that these are based on my experiences in Australia. It might not be the same for everyone, so take it with a grain of salt. It's just that if I were to do it again, I would have wished I knew some of these tips that I've included in this video so that I would be able to better make use of my time in Australia and have more experiences as well as make more memories. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, I would love to know what you thought was helpful or what isn't, and what more helpful stuff you would like to see. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't, and let me know down in the comments what you liked or what I can improve on. And yeah, thank you for watching all the way till the end of this video, and till next time.